This is the morning of the 11th of February 2026. Again, don't know if this is AI generated. Put up by Grounds Reality and BL Speaks. 1 minute ago, Marshals seized all assets of Melania's shocking testimony that rocks the Supreme Court. Plays for 15 minutes. Let's have a listen.
All right, Wednesday morning, February 11th, 2026. Melania Trump walked into the Supreme Court building at exactly 8:47 a.m. She didn't use the main entrance. She came through the underground parking garage, surrounded by 4 U.S. Marshals. By 4:15 p.m. that same day, federal agents had frozen 23 bank accounts holding a combined total of $3.8 billion. They seized deeds to 31 properties across 7 different states. And according to documents that just hit the federal court system an hour ago, 3 of Donald Trump's personal attorneys are now sitting in federal detention cells in Washington, D.C. I've spent the last 45 minutes reading through the 187-page court transcript that was released to the public at 6 p.m. tonight. The exhibits attached to this filing run another 412 pages. I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened in that courtroom, what Melania said under oath, and why the Supreme Court moved faster on this case than any other case in modern history. The former First Lady didn't just answer questions yesterday. She brought a cardboard box filled with personal diaries, copies of text messages, and bank statements that her own lawyers didn't even know existed. Let me give you some background first. Melania Trump has been First Lady twice now. The first time was from January 2017 to January 2021. Then again, starting January 2025, when her husband won his second term. Between those 2 periods, she mostly stayed out of the public eye. She gave maybe 3 interviews total. She didn't do the usual book tours or speaking circuits that other former First Ladies do. People always said she was the most private First Lady in modern American history. So here's what led to yesterday. About 3 weeks ago, the Department of Justice filed an emergency motion with the Supreme Court. They were investigating something called fraudulent asset transfers. Basically, the government was looking into whether someone moved money around to hide it from legal authorities. The DOJ claimed they had evidence that between November 2025 and January 2026, someone transferred billions of dollars out of accounts that were supposed to be frozen by court order. The timeline moves fast from there. 17 days ago, the Supreme Court agreed to hear emergency arguments about whether they could seize assets while the investigation was still ongoing. 12 days ago, the special prosecutor's office filed a motion asking the court to compel spousal testimony. They argued that Melania Trump had signature authority on 19 different offshore bank accounts. 8 days ago, the Supreme Court granted that motion over very strong objections from the Trump legal team. Monday of this week, Melania's lawyers tried one last time to block the testimony. The Supreme Court denied that motion at 11 p.m. Monday night. Tuesday morning, Melania Trump did something nobody expected. She fired her entire legal team. All 4 attorneys who had been representing her since this investigation started got termination letters before sunrise. By 10 a.m. Tuesday, she had hired a completely different law firm. This new firm specializes in federal criminal defense and witness cooperation. That should have been the first sign that something major was about to happen. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because this story is developing minute by minute. Drop a comment below telling me what you think about all this, and share this video with anyone who needs to understand what's really happening right now. Your support means everything to me, and I'll see you in the next one. Wednesday at 8:47 a.m., Melania walked into that Supreme Court chamber. The hearing was closed to cameras, but reporters were allowed inside. According to 3 different journalists who were in the room, Melania was carrying that cardboard box I mentioned. Her new attorney tried to take it from her. She pulled it away and held onto it. Chief Justice Roberts called the session to order at 9:02 a.m. The special prosecutor stood up and began asking questions. Here's what nobody saw coming. The prosecutor's first question was whether Melania wanted to invoke spousal privilege. That's a legal protection that says you don't have to testify against your husband. Melania looked at her attorney. Her attorney nodded, basically giving her permission to use that protection. Melania said, and I'm reading directly from the transcript here, I decline to invoke spousal privilege. I'm prepared to answer all questions truthfully. The courtroom went completely silent. One reporter described it as the kind of silence where you could hear people breathing. The special prosecutor asked if she wanted to invoke her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Again, Melania said no. She would answer everything. For the next 6 hours, Melania Trump sat in that witness chair and dismantled what prosecutors are calling one of the largest financial fraud schemes in American political history. Let me show you what the documents reveal. The first major revelation came about an hour into her testimony. The prosecutor asked Melania about her role in family finances. She explained that starting in March 2025, Donald asked her to co-sign on several new bank accounts. He told her these were business accounts for new real estate ventures. She signed the paperwork without reading it carefully because he assured her it was routine. According to page 34 of the transcript, she authorized the opening of 14 different accounts in banks across Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, and Singapore. But here's where it gets interesting. The prosecutor then showed her account statements from November and December 2025. Melania testified that she had never seen these statements before. She didn't know these accounts had been actively used. When the prosecutor showed her the transfer records, her reaction was captured by every person in that courtroom. The transcript notes that witness appeared visibly shocked and requested a moment to compose herself. The transfers were massive. On November 18th, 2025, someone moved $892 million from a real estate holding company into one of those offshore accounts. On November 23rd, another $1.1 billion moved. December 4th, another $687 million. January 8th of this year, a final transfer of $1.2 billion. All of these transfers happened after a federal judge had issued an order freezing the Trump Organization's assets pending the outcome of multiple civil fraud cases. Now here's the devastating part. Every single one of those transfers required two signatures, Donald Trump's signature and Melania Trump's signature. The prosecutor showed Melania copies of the transfer authorizations. Her signature was on every single page. She confirmed that yes, that was her signature. But then she said something that changed the entire trajectory of this case. According to page 67 of the transcript, Melania testified, "I was presented with these documents during what I was told were routine business meetings. I was told I was signing property management agreements. The documents I signed were in folders. I signed where I was instructed to sign. I did not read the full contents of what I was signing because I was assured by my husband and by his attorneys that these were standard real estate documents." The special prosecutor asked her a follow-up question. Had she ever asked what these documents were for? Melania's answer, on page 71, "I asked once in December why there were so many documents to sign. I was told that the business was expanding and that I shouldn't worry about the details. I trusted that explanation." Let me pause here and explain why this matters so much. If Melania had knowingly participated in moving money that was under a court freeze order, she would be guilty of a federal crime. But if she signed documents without knowing what they really were, if she was deceived about what she was signing, then she's a witness against whoever deceived her. And that changes everything. The prosecutor spent the next 2 hours walking Melania through every single document, page after page of bank transfers, wire authorizations, and account statements. According to reporters in the room, Melania's hands were shaking as she looked at the evidence. At one point, around 1:30 p.m., Chief Justice Roberts called a lunch break. Melania didn't leave the courthouse. She stayed in a private conference room with her attorneys. When the testimony resumed at 2:15 p.m., something had clearly changed. Melania's new attorney stood up and addressed the court. He said that during the lunch break, his client had made the decision to voluntarily provide additional evidence that she had been keeping in her personal possession. This is when she opened that cardboard box. Inside the box were three things. First, a personal diary that Melania had been keeping since November 2025. Second, printouts of text message conversations between her and Donald Trump from November, December, and January. Third, copies of her own bank statements showing that she had been taking notes on certain transactions that seemed unusual to her. The diary entries are particularly revealing. I'm looking at Exhibit 14C right now, which is a scanned copy included in tonight's court filing. On November 20th, 2025, Melania wrote, "Signed more papers today. Donald seemed anxious. Asked him if everything was okay with the businesses. He said everything is fine, just lawyers being lawyers." December 2nd entry. "Another meeting with attorneys. They had a stack of papers 2 inches thick. I asked what it was all for. They said property transfers and business reorganization. Donald was on the phone the whole time, didn't look at me once." January 6th, 2026. "Something feels wrong. I went online and checked one of the account numbers I remembered from the papers I signed. The account shows a balance of over $1 billion. I asked Donald about it tonight. He told me I don't understand business and that I should trust him, but I've never seen numbers like this in any of our businesses before." The text messages are even more damaging. On January 9th, Melania sent Donald a text message at 11:47 p.m. She wrote, "I saw the news about the court case. Are the accounts I signed for connected to this?" Donald's response, 3 minutes later, "Don't worry about it. Lawyers are handling everything. You didn't do anything wrong." Melania texted back, "But I signed documents. Are those documents part of what the judge is investigating?" Donald's reply, "You signed what I asked you to sign. That's all you need to know. Stop asking questions." That exchange happened on January 9th. The Supreme Court issued their order compelling her testimony on February 3rd. According to her testimony on page 156, Melania made the decision to cooperate with authorities on January 12th after consulting with her own independent attorney. Here's what that attorney told her. If she had unknowingly participated in financial crimes, her best option was full cooperation and full transparency. If she tried to hide information or protect herself through legal technicalities, she could face criminal charges. But if she came forward voluntarily with everything she knew, prosecutors would likely view her as a witness rather than a co-conspirator. Melania made her choice. She kept that cardboard box hidden in her private residence. She didn't tell the Trump family attorneys about it. When the Supreme Court ordered her to testify, she hired new lawyers who specialized in exactly this kind of situation. And when she walked into that courtroom Wednesday morning, she was prepared to tell the whole truth. The final hour of her testimony focused on one specific question. Did she believe that Donald Trump had intentionally deceived her about what she was signing? Her answer, recorded on page 178, yes. I believe I was used to authorize transactions that I would never have approved if I had known their true nature. I believe the documents were deliberately obscured from me. I believe I was told lies about what I was participating in. At 4:03 p.m., Melania Trump's testimony concluded. Chief Justice Roberts immediately called a conference with all 9 justices. They met in chambers for exactly 37 minutes. At 4:40 p.m., they issued an emergency order. The order authorized the immediate seizure of all assets connected to the flagged bank accounts. It authorized the detention of any individuals who had facilitated the transfers, and it authorized the freezing of any properties that could be traced back to the moved funds. By 5:15 p.m. Wednesday, U.S. Marshals had executed seizure warrants at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, Trump Tower in New York, the Bedminster Golf Club in New Jersey, and 4 other properties across Virginia and Nevada. By 6 p.m., 3 attorneys who had worked directly with Donald Trump on the account transfers were in federal custody. Their names are being withheld pending arraignment, which is scheduled for Friday morning at 9 a.m. The total value of seized assets currently stands at $3.8 billion. That number could go higher as investigators trace the money through various shell companies and offshore accounts. The Supreme Court's order notes that these seizures are temporary pending a full hearing on asset forfeiture, which is scheduled for February 24th. Now let's talk about what happens next. The Trump legal team issued a statement at 7:30 p.m. tonight calling Melania's testimony coerced and unreliable. They claim she was pressured by prosecutors and that her testimony was given under duress. But here's the problem with that argument. Melania voluntarily gave up her spousal privilege. She voluntarily declined her Fifth Amendment rights. And most importantly, she voluntarily submitted that cardboard box full of evidence that nobody had asked her to provide. That's the opposite of coercion. That's someone who made a deliberate choice to cooperate. Multiple legal analysts have already pointed out that Melania's testimony, combined with her documentary evidence, is devastating for any defense strategy. She provided contemporaneous records. She provided her own handwritten notes showing that she had suspicions about what was happening. She provided text messages that show she asked questions and was told to stop asking. All of that creates a timeline that's very difficult to challenge. There are still major questions that don't have answers yet. First, will Melania receive immunity from prosecution? The court documents don't mention any immunity agreement, but it would be unusual for someone to cooperate this fully without some kind of protection. Second, what exactly will Donald Trump be charged with? The current investigation is civil, but moving money in violation of a court order can become criminal very quickly. Third, will other family members face subpoenas? The documents show that some accounts had multiple signatories, including Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. What we know for certain is that the Supreme Court has scheduled a full hearing for February 24th at 10 a.m. That's when they'll determine whether the asset seizures become permanent. The 3 detained attorneys have their arraignment this Friday at 9 a.m. in federal court. We'll learn more about the specific charges then. And on Monday, February 16th, the House Oversight Committee has called an emergency session to examine the executive branch's financial disclosure requirements. They want to know how billions of dollars could move without triggering any oversight mechanisms. Subscribe to this channel right now because I'm going to cover every single development as it happens. I'll have full breakdowns of Friday's arraignment hearing and the February 24th Supreme Court session. When new documents drop, you'll get the analysis within hours, not days. This is the biggest political and legal story of the year, and it's still unfolding. Here's where we stand right now, Wednesday night, February 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Melania Trump testified for 6 hours under oath. She provided documentary evidence, including personal diaries, text messages, and bank records. The Supreme Court issued emergency seizure orders within 1 hour of her testimony ending. Federal agents have frozen $3.8 billion across 23 bank accounts. They've seized control of 31 properties. 3 attorneys are in federal detention, and the former First Lady has publicly broken with her husband's legal defense team. What this comes down to is simple. Melania Trump was asked to make a choice. She could protect her husband and potentially face criminal charges herself, or she could tell the truth about what she knew, when she knew it, and what she was told. She chose the truth. Whether that decision was driven by legal advice, personal conscience, or something else entirely, we may never fully know. But the consequences of that choice are now playing out across the federal court system. The real question isn't what happened in the past. We know what happened. The money moved, the accounts were created, the signatures were obtained. The real question is what happens in the next 2 weeks. The Supreme Court hearing on February 24th will determine whether $3.8 billion stays frozen or gets returned. The attorney arraignments on Friday will reveal the specific criminal charges being pursued. And the political fallout from a first lady testifying against the sitting president's interests is something this country has never experienced before. I'll be monitoring the federal court dockets for any new filings. I'll be watching for statements from the Trump legal team and from Melania's independent counsel. And when Friday's arraignment happens, you'll have a full breakdown right here on this channel. This story is moving faster than anything I've covered, and we're only seeing the beginning. Stay tuned, subscribe, and I'll talk to you very soon.
So here's the concern that I have with all of this. I don't think I misheard, but this reporter said that it's like 8 p.m. on February the 11th. It's not 8 p.m. She also said that Melania stepped into court on the morning of February the 11th. So there's obviously a huge disconnect here. Let me know what you think. Pass it along, and thanks for listening.